we have link chain track still ending up. So I will get started so we can have time for questions or comments at the end. So thank you everyone for joining. And it's my pleasure to be giving this wrap-up talk that is going to close our first Open Summit. So let's get it started. I ended up testing my slides. Yeah, cool. So welcome again, and I'm so excited to be here. Happy to see you all here. I wanted to end the day with something that would inspire and motivate people to keep contributing to open source if after today, and maybe make it part of your day as a developer. So hopefully I will achieve that by the end of this talk. I'm going to talk about why work in public and how open source can be a way to do it. I'm Stefanni Brasil. I'm a senior developer here at thoughtbot. I'm also an educator at HexDevs, and I'm one of the core maintainers of Faker Ruby. And here are the places where you can find more about me and my work. I wanted to thank you all for being here. I know it was a long day, and it was a lot, and I'm really just excited that you all signed up and you all participated in ways that you could. So thank you for being here. I also wanted to give a shout out to all my colleagues I thought about for making this happen. More specifically, Sarah Jackson, who worked really a lot to make this happen. All of the tracks today, everything involved here, we did it as part of our investment time. So it was all volunteer. And yeah, I wanted to thank Sarah Jackson and all the hosts and volunteers. Here's what I'm going to talk a little bit about. So why work in public, how to do it with open source, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, for chatting, or anything like that. So I like to think that even though in my title I have a developer written in there, but I like to think that as developers, at least for me, my career can be way more than just writing code. That's totally fine for some people, but to me, it had to be something else. And when I was getting started as a developer, I started really noticing that I had some people that I admired, that I really liked what they did. And I started asking that question to myself, okay, what do I want my career to be like? And I have been having this thought since then. And I encourage you to also think about that. So for example, one way to get started is to just look around and just think about, oh, who are the people that I admire and why? Why do I admire them? What do they do that inspires me and that I would like to follow their steps? I will start sharing some of the people that I admire a lot and I take lots of inspiration in my career. So if you are from the Ruby community, you probably know all of these names. But I really admire Eileen, Tenderlove, Rafael, Sandy Metz, and there are more people, of course, but those were people that have been inspired me since the beginning of my career. And when I stopped to think about, I wanted to know, okay, what actually is it that they have in common and that attracts me and makes me want to be, or at least get closer to be like them when I grow up. In this case, they all have in common, not all of them, but the majority of them, they, as part of their careers, they contribute to open source. They also talk at conferences, and basically they share what they are doing and help others. And that's how we all know about their expertise, because not only are they doing things, but they are also talking about what they are doing and sharing what they have learned with others, with the community. Apologies. So for in relation to contributing to open source, that is true for some of them. And it's also important to notice that for some of them, it's part of their jobs. They are paid full-time to work on open source. So that makes it easy. And when I realized that, then I started asking myself, okay, how can I then get closer to having that opportunity to have at least some part of contributing to open source as part of my career, of my responsibilities. And when I started asking about that, that's how I landed here in thoughtbot. And I have also been at conferences and meeting folks and meeting other maintainers. So yeah, that's one way to get started on getting answers to questions that you don't know. It's just asking, how could this be possible? You might be asking, okay, Stephanie, but why does this matter? I think that for us as developers, this is really crucial because most of our hard work gets locked in private repositories. We spend all of our time pushing code to those repositories that won't get shared in public. And so let's say that you change jobs and you go to this new job and you do something that is similar to what you have worked on. You don't have access to that anymore. And also, you probably don't remember things anymore. I don't remember things from a few weeks ago. So if we just let our work be locked in those private repositories, it's, it's kind of like a not wasted time because we're getting paid for it, but it just means we lose it as we leave those jobs. So that's one thing that I would like you to consider, and why this is important. If I got your attention and you are ready to get started, or just to even think about it, how you can apply to your career, to how your life is right now, I wanted to just share a few ideas. To get started, it's important to know that you choose your own adventure here. Maybe you want to finally get started with public speaking. I know public speaking, oh, Halloween stories, but public speaking is something that it's never bad to get better at. It doesn't it doesn't matter what is the context. If you practice more public speaking, it's always going to be a good thing to practice. So maybe you can use this opportunity of working in public to finally slowly get started with public speaking. Or maybe you do really like writing. You are better by taking some time to put your heads down, think about the problem, explain it, and maybe publish what you're working on in a blog post. Or maybe you actually want to do it in another way, as a contributor to open source, perhaps even as a maintainer. And I imagine that for most folks who are here today, you already have this interest in open source, and we will talk a little bit more about working in public with open source a bit later. Because this is your career, it's your life, you decide how much time you want to invest in and whatever you want to explore for your career. But then, if this is really important for you, it may be an opportunity to talk with your employer, with your team lead, and mention that. mention that you're interested in sharing more about what you are working on as part of your job. And maybe you can get some hours per week or bi-weekly or per month and to help you get started with this. One thing to mention here is when we do this, when we are talking about what we are working on, and if you do it during your job's time, it's good to remember that you sharing about your company, it's also good for them. It can help them hire more candidates when they are hiring, and also, just make people maybe be interested in applying, and other things that can happen when you talk more about what you work on. So you can maybe talk about this with your team leads or your manager, bringing that point. It might seem that what I'm trying to say is, oh, let's all become influencers and make TikTok videos or become dev advocates. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. That's a full-time job in itself. But I think it never hurts to advocate for yourself and for your career. And I have a typo in career. So yeah, I hope that this makes you be more excited about sharing what you are working on. Now, I do have some working public tips based on my experience, and I would love to know your experience as well. You can drop it in the chat. When we talk about working public, if you pay a little bit of attention, you will realize that the bar to stand out is pretty low because few people talk about what they are doing, few people contribute to open source, and fewer people talk about what they learned from it, what type of challenges they shared, they encountered. So you don't, like I mentioned before, you choose your own time, your own adventure here, but you definitely do not need to invest a lot of time to just stand out because the bar is pretty low. All the tips to help you as you explore this journey is be selfish. Documenting your work will help you keep this history of your achievements. It can help you when you're doing performance reviews or when you are thinking about maybe asking for a promotion or something. You can show all of those things that you have accomplished. You have them all documented. So be selfish. Do it for yourself first. That's how I do it. Another tip here is don't take yourself too seriously. It's I started doing improv kind of lately, and one of the lessons that really stuck out to me was we are here to fail. We're not here to be right or to do things right. We are here to fail and celebrate failure. Now, I'm not saying we should go out there and make mistakes, but intentionally. But I just think that we grow to become too risk averse, and we stop doing things just by letting the fear of something going wrong stopping us. So don't take yourself too seriously. If you did say something or you posted something that was wrong, that someone corrected you, guess what? That's a great opportunity for you to have learned something. You can say, thank you very much. I actually didn't know about that, so thank you. And you wouldn't have learned if you didn't share it in the first place. My other tip here is, and I say this in a good way, nobody really cares about you, but in a good way. Like nobody's gonna be really paying attention on whatever you are doing or whatever you are posting. People have their lives to worry about, to care about, and nobody's gonna be nitpicking on what you're doing. So don't worry too much. Maybe relax a little bit and try to have fun. I think it works better when you have fun. So let's talk a little bit about applying all of this with open source, which is why we are here today. I would like to get started by just saying a few things about how how you can do to not contribute to open source. And I see this happening a lot, which is basically people will come to a maintainer and just ask for one specific issue for them to work on, but even without them ever even trying to run the repo or trying to read the docs. If you expect someone to give you an open issue already, just waiting for you, you are never going to get started with contributing to open source. And there is a lot of value in what we did a lot of today, which is actually sitting down, downloading, reading the docs, and trying to make sense of everything. That is a lot of value in there, but people usually want to skip that part. Yeah, so if you're expected to be given something to work on, I unfortunately have bad news. I don't think that's going to happen. And as we saw today, most of the open source work is not actually fancy. It's, making hard decisions. It's fixing bugs. It's updating docs, or occasionally changing a feature, deprecating something, making it work with a new dependency version. But if you are willing to do this core work, this will give you lots of information that you can build on top of to do the other things that you might have wanted to do with open source. There is no project managers in open source. That is actually one of the biggest barriers that prevents people from contributing, right? Because especially as developers, we usually have a roadmap. We have tasks with acceptance criteria, and when we try to go to open source, that doesn't exist, and it becomes a barrier. But that is not a good thing. That is not a bad thing. I think it's an opportunity, and that opportunity is getting better at finding problems. We are really good at solving problems, but identifying problems to solve, things that are ambiguous or that people experience, but no one is actually creating a task for it to fix, is a skill. And I think it's valuable for us to learn. And I think that open source is a great way to practice this skill. So how can you find problems to solve in open source? If you have been here for the tracks today, I'm sure you have maybe saw a little bit of this. I at least try to look around with this curious mindset, write notes about interesting things that I find. For example, those Rails reproduction steps, I learned about it by trying to reproduce a bug in Rails. And I didn't know you could create a Rails app in a single file. So you kind of learn some small bits, but they are really nice to learn. One thing that is the most underrated way to finding problems is to read the docs and try to see if the docs are actually correct and up to date. Another way is also to just lurk. I know that RG earlier was mentioning that lurking is also part of contributing to open source, and you can do it. You can lurk, but with a strategy around it. You can look and see, how do people communicate here? What are they talking about in issues, in the pull requests? When you look at the bugs to triage, a great way is to just try to replicate it. Or if you can't replicate it, share it in the issue. All of this is valid. And something else that is also helpful is reviewing pull requests, because that will give you some ideas for when you are ready to create your own pull requests. So another part of it is just choosing the project that you want to get started. There are so many projects, and yeah, it can be overwhelming. I find it easy. To me, the easiest way to contribute to open source is just find bugs or something that is confusing or something that is broken in libraries that I already use. But you can also approach it from a different way. maybe you want to learn something new and you want to take that opportunity to contribute to open source. Maybe by doing those steps of reading the docs, seeing the issues, the pull requests, trying to replicate stuff, you will start to learn more about that skill, that tool that you wanted to learn more. So go from there, build the blocks. There's no right path here, but yeah, don't wait for anyone to tell you what to do. I think that is the summary here. And once you did all of these investments, you spent time choosing the projects, getting familiar with the project. Maybe you are now getting regular contributions to it, or maybe not. That's also fine. Sometimes contributing to open source is more than just having a PR merged. I think that it is important to now take a step back and just share what you worked on or what you learned. And you can do that with using different ways. Remember that nothing here is too small. And yeah, you decide. If you didn't know something and you learned by contributing to open source, doesn't matter. Share it. Even if someone already knows about it, you didn't know, thousands of other people didn't know. So yeah, share it. Add it to your brag document or your career log. I have my brag document that I update every week, and it goes from a shout out that I received from someone to a PR that got merged or an issue that got closed or something like that. You can also just get started by sharing with your colleagues. Maybe you have a developer channel or something like that where you can share something. And even if no one cares, if that's not part of the engineering culture of your team, that doesn't matter. Remember, you're doing this for yourself, first of all, and let people just keep seeing that you are doing things. Maybe you can write a post about it, or you can give a lightning talk at a meetup, a conference, or a lunch and learn at your company. You can also share a snippet on social media. And we are also talking about improv. I always keep thinking how cool it would be if we had stand-up comedy just focused on developer life. Like that would be also cool. It would be a way to share what you're working on. If you have that interest in, you can combine things. So the sky's the limit here. You choose how it's easier for you, but share it. Don't worry about it and keep doing. Yeah, so that was my talk here. We talked a little bit about working public, how to work in public with open source. We'll have a few minutes for QA. Before we go there, I would like to say that we are looking for maintainers or even regular contributors. We have Curry, a Swift library, and Parity, which is a Ruby library. And we have other projects that you can check out at our thoughtbot GitHub's organization. So if that looks interesting to you, reach out and we can make that work. And I wanted to say thank you very much. This was, like I mentioned in the beginning, everyone here was, we all worked on this in our investment time. It was all volunteering. And we are a consulting company, so we work with clients from different stages. We would love to work with you if that's possible. That would be cool. And yeah, if you would like to keep in touch, keep up to date with our open source stuff, including more events like this, I hope you can follow us on social media or sign up for a newsletter. I also wanted to share those resources. This is a lightning talk. You should live stream. I didn't talk about live stream, but yeah, live stream is also a way of working in public and come on in, making yourself at home in a new code base. It's also a really nice RailsConf talk related to what we talked here. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm so happy that this happened. Thank you all for joining our first Open Summit. Hopefully we'll have more in the next years. This was just the first. And thank you for joining. Yeah, I will have some time. We have some time for comments and questions. I'm gonna take a look at the chat. Yeah, improv, yes, and yeah. Testing. Yeah, 100% agreed. I'm having fun when possible. I was just advising a coworker about that earlier this week. Yeah, exactly. If you're doing this for yourself, you might as well have fun, right? I think that's a more sustainable way, let's say. If you make it sound like it's a job, then it's gonna be hard. Testing the project against RubyMain or release candidates can help you find some problems. Yeah, that is true. That is always a good way to find problems. And yeah, maybe our next event is a dev stand-up comedy. I'm sure Tender Love would be one of the comedians. All right, everyone. If there's no more questions or comments, I will wrap it up here. And thank you very much. I hope to see you around in the internet. Thank you for joining again, and hope to see you around and see you contributing to open source more. So I'll see you there. Bye.
I'm Lindsay Christensen, VP of Marketing at thoughtbot.
And I'm thoughtbot CEO Chad Pytel. And we can't wait for you to join us for our AI in Focus live stream series. Every week, we're helping you cut through AI myths and implement actual code so you can have real business impact. You can register today at thoughtbot.com/AI-in-focus. I'll be leading a series for web developers and more technical product folks who want to learn how to integrate AI directly into their products. In these 4 sessions, I'll be live coding actual implementations in Ruby, and we'll cover things like using LLMs like ChatGPT to answer questions from documentation, and using third-party LLMs and hosting your own open source models, and much more.
It's hard to figure out what is a good application for AI, not to mention what technology to use, and then how do you manage it going forward. But you can approach it like any good software project with a design-led mindset to understand what the best solution is, apply the right product management and ethical checks and balances along the way to make it successful.
Right. And with all the advancements of LLMs over the last few years, implementation is now possible by any experienced web developer. And yes, Ruby on Rails is great for AI.
So we hope you register today and we see you in the sessions.
We can't wait to see you.